So we ran a little short on our bins for finishing the exhaust yesterday, so I had to order a few more. Thankfully, Tycon or Stainless Brothers, they're the same company, are located right here in Austin, Texas, so we were able to get this stuff delivered the next day. So let's see what bins we have here. We'll get the rest of the exhaust bolted up, and then we can continue making the rear tailpipes. No tubes yet. All right, so I got 2 of these 45s. This stuff all comes really nicely packaged. It's pretty high quality stuff. It already comes with a nice finish on it, a brushed finish. So that's a 45 elbow, and I got 2 of those. I got 2 60 elbows, and then I got 2 90 elbows. There again, here later we're going to weld a T-nut to the steel part, the part that's on the car, so that we don't have to fish a nut in here like this. And I realize these aren't really strong up and down right now, but that's okay because we're going to be adding more hangers to the back, so these won't be the only thing holding the weight. Now, where'd that one go? I had enough. See a nut somewhere? It still fits pretty good for all the welding we did. And then we'll snug the ones on the manifolds too. All right, that's good enough. Nice and solid. Now we're ready to continue the tailpipes. All right, so last time we were talking about doing these lower spring mounts. So we've got those welded on now, and then we made these bungs to space out the spring. We've mocked up the coil springs with the shocks in place and made that spacer and got them so basically they're not rubbing on the rear end right now. And then we also got the upper cross member tack welded in for now so that it can support the weight of the vehicle. Well, the first set of springs that I got were a little bit too stiff. They were 275 pounds a piece, and I had the threads adjusted all the way as far as I could and piled the trunk with a bunch of weight, and it still made the car sit too high. So I got some lighter springs. These ones are 75 pounds lighter per side, so 150 pounds total in the rear. So we're gonna set the car down now that we've got them positioned in the correct spot, and we're gonna see how the car sits. So let's lower the car. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to because
you don't think you'll be able to get wet now?
An accurate representation of ride height here.
I've had mine drop up to an inch after just rolling it. See, it went down a little bit, then it just raised back up though.
So part of the spring mock-up, setup, whatever you want to call it, is the upper spring mount moves over about 5 inches. Actually, it's not the original spring mount. This was the original shock mount. And so basically we reused those original shock studs because they're 5/8. And basically we just cut this out and made a plate and welded it in there. And now that is the spring mount. So it's not just mounted to the sheet metal though. It's actually sleeved with a bushing that we made. And then it's tied into the inner structure. And now it's also welded to that new 10 gauge cross member, which is right there. So basically all of the weight of the car is not only transferred into the 10 gauge cross member, but it's also tied into the unibody structure. And it's all welded together. So then we capped off these corners here to stiffen that up. And then we're gonna come back and weld up these seams later. Once we get it on the rotisserie, we'll weld all that up. So that actually worked out really well. That was probably one of the more difficult things, difficult parts of installing the rear springs and everything, but well worth the effort. And you know, it packaged pretty well. So check out how nice that trunk is, man. Did you see that?
Looks good.
It's nice and solid. So the only rust, well, I mean, there's a little bit of surface rust here. It's not quite all the way through there yet, but there was some cancerous rust right in that area, and we just cut it out and replaced it with that cross member. We didn't even repatch the sheet metal. We just basically went right over it with the 10 gauge. It's actually a lot stronger there now than it ever was. But yeah, we got the new springs in. We did a little bit of testing with some weight, and these 200-pound springs are gonna probably be just about right once we get some stereo equipment in here, gas tank full of gas, all the carpet, seats, everything back in here, it'll be just about right. So next step on the exhaust is we got to wrap up the tailpipes. What I mean by wrap up is finish fabricating the tailpipes. So the other day, me and Mauricio were mocking up these stainless tips. I forget the name of the place that I got them. It was Mopar Plus or something. And they're solid stainless steel. They're pretty thick. And originally I thought, man, that's really cool. You can buy something that's ready to go. Until we started mocking it up, found out that they're not as good as what we thought they were, which is typically the case with aftermarket parts. So that's part of my frustration with aftermarket parts, and why I want to make parts that are better and well engineered and everything, is because I get so tired of wasting money on junk parts. The reason these are not up to standard for hammer fab is, I don't know if you can notice, but the height of the opening on these is completely different left to right. That tip is about at least a 1/4 inch taller than this tip. And then when we first got them, one of them was rounded on the end, one of them was chopped square on the end, or straight on the end. And then another thing was they got a hanger that hangs down through the middle, but one of them is like hanging down a little bit. The other one was hanging down a lot, and you couldn't get in there to cut it out. And so I was like, well, these are just kind of inferior. Like initially, looking at them, they look like a nice quality part, but the further we got into dealing with them, realized they were really just kind of garbage. And so now I'm kind of forced to, one, I can't go ahead and weld them onto the exhaust even if we finish the exhaust. Like basically now they're going to serve as a jig so that we can build to them. But I got to order another one of these from the same place. Basically one of these is going in the trash, and I'm going to order one and hope that it matches one of these. And then we got to modify it and make it look nice and everything. And when you think something can be simple and just buy it and bolt it on, it's just constant letdown. So that's my rant for today on the exhaust. It's a good thing I can't remember the name of the company, because I would probably badmouth them right now, but that's not the point. The point is we're going to make it better. We're going to proceed. We're going to do nice stuff, build cool things. So let's get this exhaust done. We're building the tailpipes. So, we got an issue with the tailpipes themselves. We'll have to deal with that later. But basically, we're just going to build to these and use these as a jig, and then we'll have to replace the tip later, okay? I got some more bends from Stainless Brothers, and I've got a little bit of straight pipe left over there somewhere that we can use if we need some longer sections. So basically what we've got to do is we've got to come from the muffler, under the axle, around the spring, around the gas tank, don't hit the tire, and then back into the tip. Now this, usually on a normal car that's symmetrical, this isn't an issue, but this car being a Mopar, everything's kind of off to the side, to the passenger side for some reason. So the engine's offset, transmission's offset, the drive shaft, everything, everything that should be symmetrical. The gas tank is offset. So over here, we got plenty of room to run pipes next to the, right under the frame, and not get anywhere close to the gas tank. So a couple of things we want to avoid here is we want to keep the pipes minimum of like 1.5 inches away from the gas tank so that there's plenty of airflow around it. We don't want to boil the gas, because that can create a huge problem. We also don't want to get too close to the tires, because tires get too hot, you're going to have a blowout or something. Now usually that's not a problem, making things symmetrical. Once you get one side figured out, you got the same exact bends to use for the other side. But in this situation, it's going to be much more difficult to fit this tube over here around the gas tank, because I have to clear the tank right here, come up basically through here somewhere, and then back over, and then like this. So that basically means I got to use up more bends, or I got to be smarter about how I use up my bends. So it's real easy, if you're not paying attention, to just waste all your bends. We got to be strategic about this and make it count. Make every bend count. And then that side should go a little easier. Basically what we got to kind of do is, just before we cut anything, we got to start mocking. We got to mock things up and see if they're going to work. That one's probably not going to work right there, but it might work. I mean, that could maybe work. So you got to think, there's a lot going on here. You got to think about Okay, axle droop. But honestly, right now, this is the furthest the axle is ever gonna droop, right? Because it's suspended on the springs. So if it would ever need to droop this much, it's gonna be in a situation like this where you've got it on the lift and the axle is just hanging. So we could probably get this tube pretty close to the axle right there and be okay. And that way when the axle travels, it's only gonna go up away from the exhaust. The exhaust won't move. That's like the best news so far. All right, we're gonna start with the 60. It's a little bit further in front of the rear end than I'd like, but I think it's gonna work out because I'll be able to cut some of this bend off. So let's mock up this one. So I want the long tail shooting over this way to get me to that point faster. Make sense? So it's gonna end up going up there-ish, like that. So if I have to cut, basically I'm trying to see where both of these are gonna meet the best without wasting the bend. So we're gonna cut that one right there and this one right there. So whenever you're cutting these U-bends, you always, always, always cut perpendicular to the tube. So basically if you were to imagine this is a circle right here in the middle, anywhere in there is your pie cut. So if you want to cut it at that angle, that's where your cut is. If you want to cut it here, that's where your cut is. You want to cut it here, your cut needs to match. You don't cut like this. You don't cut like this. You always cut in that radius. So it'll be like a fan. So same thing on this tube and this tube. So that anytime you butt two pieces of tube together, no matter what angle they're at, they always butt up perfectly square. All right, so we're gonna cut this one off and save it for later. So we're gonna mark this one passenger side, just so I keep track of what I have for left and right. We're gonna mark this one passenger side. Passenger 1, passenger 2. Well, this will just be waist. This will just be passenger. Okay, and then this will be passenger 2. And this will just be wasted flat section, a wasted straight section. So I'll mark where I think it needs to be cut. And then when I go to cut it, I'll cut it a little bit big and then mock it up again. Let's go cut these two pieces. See how it's perpendicular to the tube? It's not at a weird angle. If you look straight on, that's the side I want to keep. So I'm going to cut on this side of the line and try and get my cut as perpendicular as possible. Perpendicular to the bend. Now this one still has some bend on it, so we may end up needing that one later. All right, this was our 60. Oh no, that
Passenger 1 should be your first one.
Yeah, passenger 1. You cut all that length off of there, it doesn't look like a 60. All right. Then we've got passenger 2. I'm waiting for it to cool off. It's too hot to hang on to right now. I like that. That's pretty good. I'll point it right there-ish. Okay, so now this one is like really wiggly in that muffler. I don't like that at all. It's gonna throw off my measurements a lot. See how little bit that wiggles? Out here, it's gonna be like 4 inches. But I really don't want to tack it yet, so we might have to live with that for now. All right, now I'm going to grab some 1.5" tape, and we're going to keep that handy for taping these together temporarily. So basically, you got to hold them end to end. And now we got to try and figure out the next piece. So what I want to happen back here, I want this tube right here to basically be right about there, at the same angle as the tank. That's the goal. 1.5" away from the tank and about the same distance away from the tire, which is getting pretty close right there. So really I probably need to get this joggle established on here so I can rest this up here like that. That needs to be right about there-ish. What bends do I have that I can do that with? Well, I have this one, but I need another one because that's only going to kick it one direction. I need to kick it 2 directions. All right, so we're utilizing some of our hammer fab exhaust hangers here to support this straight pipe in place while we build this end and build that end. So I don't offer those as a product right now, but I might. Comment below if you think we should offer these as a product. They're pretty cool. Pop that one out. Pop that one out. Now I want to slide it down this way. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna tack weld that other tip on here. First we gotta go deburr it. If we're gonna make that permanent, we gotta deal with it now. That's actually not bad right there. It's almost there. I think we can make that work if I can just figure out what's going on here. That bend just needed a little bit more radius. All right, we got it that time. I'm liking that. All right, we are on the last pieces of the puzzle here on the passenger side tailpipe. I've got a small bend, another small bend, a flat section, and this one is connected to a straight piece. So basically what we're gonna end up doing is I've got this all where I want it now. It's all flowing pretty nice. And now what we're gonna do is swedge this flat section or the straight section on this last little bit to fit inside the exhaust tip. So I'm gonna mark right here at the base of the exhaust tip, and that's where the swedging needs to occur. And then we just kind of need to make sure that the tip looks nice. Yeah, it's pretty straight. All right, these are just taped for now. We'll end up tacking those together in a minute. And then you can see based off of that, like that, something ain't straight right there. But let's swedge it and then we'll fit it in there. But actually I gotta cut some of this because if it's that long, well, I guess it did fit in there all the way, but once it's swedged, it won't. It'll only go in there that far. So we need to cut this off and then swedge it. All right, this is a tubing swedger. And basically, I just want to go in that far, so we're just going to go into about those marks right there. I'm gonna go a little bit more and then we'll check it. So you notice it's not swedging it in here. It's only doing it on the outside. That's because of just the nature of the bend. All right, let's check it. All right, I gotta go quite a bit more. It's still sloppy in the hole there. So I'm already learning something here. I should have left that more tail on there first and then cut it. I still got quite a ways to go and it's already kind of getting weird on me. There we go, now it straightened it out. It was getting too big of a gap in between the dies. There it is. Well, we could go just a little bit. Let's see what our rotation looks like here. It's pretty close. That's pretty much it right there. I just gotta line it up. So what I wanna do now is tape this section on there before I tack any of it together, and then step back and look at it so that I can make sure that the tip looks correct. This 1.5 inch wide tape actually holds it in place pretty good. It needs to be ground a little bit right there, but that'll get us pretty close. All right, now that's pretty much where it's gonna be. Now if I step back and look at it, does the tip look okay? It actually looks pretty good, I think. Yeah, I like it. Now this one's out of whack still, but we're gonna order another one. So we're not gonna weld it to the tip yet, but we are gonna weld all these pieces. That way we can take this whole pipe off, weld it, and then the last thing we do, I mean, I guess really you don't really have to weld that. It's a slip fit, as long as it's not rattling, but we'll probably weld it just so it doesn't end up moving around on us. And we got a hanger there. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly peel back the tape and make witness marks. 3 on that one. Whoa. That's why you make witness marks, in case they fall off on you. So now I just gotta line those marks back up, and then this one is a little bit off. There we go, that's better. All right, now we need some in the middle. Now I can go tack all those together on the bench. I'll tack these 3 together first, and then I'll tack it onto that. After I get a couple tacks on there, I want to check for tube alignment. So a lot of times these tubes are out of round and you can just kind of twist them to get them to line up a little bit better. So that way you don't end up with a giant gap somewhere or poor fitment. So that's pretty much equalized all the way around. All right, now that one's good to go. Now we'll do this one. So right away I'm checking for overall fitment from one tube to the other, because they're always a little different. And then I want to align those witness marks. Okay, now I got one. Now sometimes you got to kind of steer this left and right. So I'm going to steer it over here first. I'm kind of pulling it one way, and then I'll pull it back the other way. See how far off that is right there? I'll just push it like that to line it up without burning your thumb. That's the tricky part. All right, now that one's good to go. That thing's not moving anywhere. Now you just got to be able to hang on to it. See, it's just a little bit of a joggle, just enough. That tank is just offset, just enough to be a pain in our neck. But we got it. Now we'll put this, try and get this installed in here. We may have to do this number just to get it in there like that. And then rotate it back around. Didn't want to go that way, so we'll go this way like that. All right, now I pulled this out of the hanger a little bit. All right, let's go. Oh, look at that, that's perfect. Ready for some welding action. Now I've got really bad fitment over here. Actually, what I should have done was swedge that a little bit. Yeah, I gotta swedge that. See how bad that fits? Well, with the swedger, I can bump this one open a little bit to fit that one. But I gotta cut this tack I just did loose. All right, so we're just gonna put it right on the end. And crack it just a little bit. A little bit more. Let's check that. Now we're just trying to fit it to this diameter right now. So right there's the rotation. Okay, now if I get this back wall to line up, you see it's still pretty bad fitment. So we gotta go a little bit more.
Let me see, hold on, can I see where the fitment? I couldn't get a good camera angle.
All right, I've got this side fitting good, but you see how it's still got a shelf? It's better than it was, but it still needs to go a little more. All right, so we're just gonna rotate this just a little bit more and bump it. And then we'll do it a couple of different rotations so we don't get marks in it. So that's gonna be just right. Look at that.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, I don't have the exhaust tip on there right now, but I don't really need it because I got my tack weld as a reference point or witness mark. Okay, now that's fitting pretty good, but I need to squeeze it just a little bit to pump that wall out. So that's what I use this clamp for. Just gonna squeeze the top and bottom to pump that out like that. Now I'm gonna probably need a little bit of fill rod on that one because there's a little bit of a gap there. Anytime there's a gap, it doesn't like to bridge across. Okay, now we should be able to get the clamp out of the way, put the tip on, and it should line right up like that. There it is. There you have it. 167 Barracuda stainless tailpipe. Now we're gonna cut those tacks loose off of this. Actually, you know what? We probably need to figure out where we're gonna put a hanger. Well, we got a hanger there. Probably need another hanger up here somewhere, but I don't know. Like that's a lot of span. Like this thing's gonna be flopping. Let's see, there's not a lot of good places to do that to. You can't connect it to the axle. You can't connect it to the gas tank.
I feel like right where you have that
this
piece, it's like
yeah, it almost has to be right there. I mean, let's take this off and see what it feels like. I mean, it's not connected to the muffler yet. It's not fully welded. So that's part of the problem. Let's weld it to the muffler and then see how floppy it is. I'm gonna put some more tacks on this. Oh no, you know what? We gotta put a V-band clamp right there.
okay, well that's perfect then.
Yeah, but now I gotta cut those tacks loose, like 6 of them. Totally forgot about the V-bands. All right, now in theory, it should bolt right up. So we forgot to put the V-bands right after the muffler. So we just did that, and now it should go right back where it was. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Got it. All right, now that'll rotate, so that's good. We've got a little bit of adjustment there. All right, now. Okay, that's all we got for tailpipe stuff today. So basically what we ended up doing was we didn't have enough bends again. We used both 45 bends and both 60-degree bends, and we're left with the 290-degree bends. So I'm gonna have to get some more of those bends for this side. You know, I might be able to make these work, but pretty sure I'm gonna need those same bends or similar bends. So until next time, we'll see you later.